Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Hey, you're listening to another episode of Next to Madison. We got another exciting episode coming your way. I'm on this episode. I'm actually sitting down with a entrepreneur who focuses on the growth and strategy of small businesses. She was also motivated during the COVID-19 pandemic to help small businesses, specifically in New York, that was hit so hard. And she started a I Love New York small business competition, and tons of small businesses signed up for this and applied, and about 1,000 were chosen. And she's going to spend a year guiding them from everything from their web presence to their marketing strategies to hiring, anything she can do using her skills, which is primarily focusing on growing small businesses to help these businesses survive in New York. And so I'm so excited to have her on today to be able to talk about this. If you're somebody who has a small business, this episode is definitely for you. If you're somebody who wants to start a business, this episode is for you. If you're somebody that wants to make money or start a side hustle, this episode's for you. Basically, this episode is for everyone. So please tune in. Carissa Reiniger is her name. And after our brief commercial break, we're going to be back with her so she can tell us all about her I Love New York business campaign, and also what she does to help small businesses grow to a bigger size. I'm officially sitting with our guest of the day on Next to Madison, Carissa Reiniger, and I'm going to let her take it from here. She is going to tell us, well, my first question for you. First of all, welcome, Carissa. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a part of this. So I mentioned in the intro, obviously she helps small businesses. So the first question I got is, how did you get involved with small businesses?
It's a really kind of random and specific thing, I know. So my background is I'm originally Canadian. My degree's in psychology, and I always assumed I'd go into service, working in nonprofits, working with the most vulnerable amongst us. And then in a really weird twist, I moved to Toronto out of university, and I ended up working in advertising of all things. And I loved putting deals together and meeting people. And I loved the business development part of it. But I was very quickly unfulfilled by doing advertising, basically. At the end of the day, if I was successful in my work, what good would that have done the world? And sort of in parallel to that journey, I just met a lot of small business owners. I was new to Toronto. I was trying to find ways to meet people, and I sort of naturally started going to small business networking events or different things.
Wow.
And all these small business owners that I met, struggled to find new customers, struggled to get to profitability. And they were things that, in a weird way, my skill set in psychology and then business development could kind of help solve. And so I would just meet people that I liked and sit for coffee and help them build plans. I love to build plans and get things organized. And then, because I like to be efficient, I actually started to build templates for those plans. And my brain started to sort of almost modulize how you grow a small business. But I was just doing it for fun, for free, because as a way to help people. And then one day I actually had a good meeting. I had a big win and in advertising. And I thought, oh my God, is this my life? Is this what I'm going to be known for? That I sold ad deals? What a boring existence. And so
nothing wrong with that if you sell ads. She's just saying
there's nothing wrong. If you sell ads, I hope you love your life. I hope you love it. And if you do, I'm happy for you. But I had this sort of moment, and I actually went and talked to the CEO that I reported to. And I thought I was being such a nice, I was 22. I was so naive, thought I was being such a good person. He walked me out, because when you're in business development, there's always the fear you're going to take your address book somewhere else. So I was 22. I think I had $1,000 in the bank. I had been doing all this random stuff with just small businesses as nice, basically as a way to make friends. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I help small businesses? Why don't I start a company? Why don't I do it? I would say ignorance is bliss. And that was 16 years ago. And here we are. And it's been a long journey, which I'm happy to tell you about, but here we are.
Well, that's amazing. And the one thing that really that kind of drew you and I together was somebody that's involved. One of our producers on the podcast actually got chosen. But before we go into that, I want you to tell us about your I Love New York small business.
Yeah.
campaign, initiative, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I've learned in the last 16 years of doing the work that we've done is that small business owners are incredible. You know, we are so obsessed as a culture with tech startups and people raising millions and selling for billions and building apps. We're obsessed with this sort of like, you know, very specific narrative entrepreneurship. But when you look at the impact COVID has had, right, on communities and local economies, and then the global economy, small business is at the center of that conversation because they matter so much. And the resilience and the tenacity and the creativity of small business owners is so phenomenal, but often really overlooked and not talked about. So I have become a massive advocate of reinstilling a sense of pride in small business owners, of looking at the, you know, economic development and economic justice through the lens of small business. Because I think that if we're not thinking about small business and the impact that it has on families, jobs, communities, and economies, we're really missing the point in a lot of really key things. So that's sort of like a context, but I love New York. I moved here 12 years ago. I'm Canadian, like I mentioned, but I consider myself a New Yorker if the New Yorkers will give me that. And I was heartbroken by, you know, how deeply the city was impacted through COVID, but specifically the small business owners that were here. I was heartbroken and inspired at the exact same time. Every small business owner that we worked with in New York just did not give up, did not relent. You know, lots of our businesses went to $0 in revenue within 30 days, from thriving businesses to nothing, and did not feel bad for themselves, didn't get victim-y, just said, okay, I got to figure it out. I loved the resilience and the New Yorkness of so many of the people here. And so I wanted to do something for New York City small businesses. I wanted to acknowledge the small business owner's contribution through the worst of COVID, but also try to get the city to remember that we actually have a real opportunity to rebuild New York back differently. Not better, not just differently. We became, as a city, so focused on real estate development. There's chains everywhere. Small businesses are flowing out of storefronts because they can't afford it. So I Love NYC SMB is a campaign to recognize, celebrate, support, thank, and appreciate 100 incredible small business owners who stayed in New York City through the worst of COVID. They did not leave. They innovated and created, but instead of going into protection mode, they actually became more generous. They gave more, they helped more, they showed up for the city. So we've chosen the 100 winners. And then at a broader level, we really want to inspire and challenge New Yorkers to buy from small business, to get behind the small businesses in the city, because we need them to come back better and differently and stronger, and all the taglines that are being used.
Yeah.
Small business is crucial. So that's a long answer, but there you have it.
But that's amazing. So, because you're right, like we do focus on the big businesses and things like that, but I'm trying to, like, you know, look at small businesses and buy from them as much, you know, the ones that I can. Because I think also people just didn't realize, like, it was convenient to go to Amazon. It was convenient to go to Walmart or Walgreens. You know, instead of realizing, okay, wait a second, like you can actually make a difference by spending a couple more pennies or dollars to a local business, and to take a little bit more time. I feel like COVID kind of helped people recognize how important small businesses actually are.
I hope so.
People are running, like, they want convenience, they want quick, they want speed. But like Amazon is like, I hate Amazon. I don't support Amazon.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, because I'm like, they what they've done, and having their sellers on the website and then making their own product to compete with them, but competing at a better price because they have the mass volume. So it was like, okay, if I can buy it somewhere else, yeah, it takes a couple extra steps, but yeah, it makes a big difference. So
it makes such a big difference. I always say the best way you can thank and recognize a small business is to buy from them. And $1, if you take $1 and you spend it with a small business, it has a literal impact on that life, that their kids, their staff, the local community, the Little League team, right? Like the value of $1 is so different when you're buying from small businesses than when you're buying from big businesses. And yeah, it can take a little more time, but I think it makes even shopping so much more gratifying, right? Like I love, just before we started recording, you know, I showed you a necklace that everything I buy is from small businesses. I try very hard never to buy from anyone other than small business. And so I buy less, but the stuff I buy is beautiful and high quality. And you meet the business owner sometimes, and there's a beauty in that exchange that goes away from just pure consumerism and actually goes to relationship and creating a world we want to live in.
Yeah, no, very well said. So how did you choose? So how many people applied for this program?
Hundreds. We were lovingly overwhelmed. It came together fast. It was a meeting that I called with a couple of my good friends in New York and a couple of our team members. And I was like, guys, it was in January. We've got to do something. The 1-year anniversary of the lockdown is in March. Let's be ready to announce something that day. And they're like, that's in like 6 weeks. I'm like, exactly. Let's go. So it was very New York in that. And we made the announcement March 18th, 2021, that we had applications open. We had hundreds of submissions come in, and on May 25th, we announced the 100 winners. So we did an initial vetting of just some basic criteria. Are they in New York? Are they actually a small business? Some basics. Did a little bit of online research about their companies. Then put finalists through to interviews. Interviewed all the people. I think we interviewed about 200 of them, and then chose the 100. And we were really focused on choosing the 100 primarily to the top who really deserved it. Again, by those criteria, they stayed, they innovated, they were generous, they gave to others. But also we were very conscious about diversity and representing the true small business community of New York. So there are people in all 5 boroughs. There's a good group of them in all 5 boroughs. Really diverse backgrounds in terms of religion and geography and origin, some native New Yorkers, lots of people like me who came to New York and have called it home, all types of industries, from a fabulous Ethiopian restaurant to a really cool nonprofit to, a honey maker, like just everything and everything in between, product and service. And it's the faces of New York. I mean, it's really, they're beautiful. The 100 winners are amazing.
Oh, well, that is great. And so you're just kind of helping guide them on a roadmap to grow.
We are. We've also engaged a number of other organizations to support it. So Broadway.com gave every single one of the winners a $500 gift card to take a night out and go to a Broadway show, which is so awesome, because we just wanted to give them a chance to rest and relax after such an intense 18 months. GoDaddy gave every single one of them a free .nyc domain and 365 like cloud hosting. Spotify is giving all them free ad credits to help drive business back to them. This incredible organization called Reinvention TV is giving all of them free. He's creating a free promo video for all of them. The list just goes on. It's just the generosity and the way that people and partners have come on board to support us so we can support them has been really beautiful.
Isn't that great? So
Yeah.
now let's get into the nitty gritty, because the listeners are probably saying, okay, I've got a business idea, or I am a small business and I don't want to be a small business anymore. I want to grow.
Yes. And we hear it all the time. So let me tell you. So SLAP is the program. So the methodology that I built way back when in those coffee shops, that is really what we use now, is based on the premise, a couple of key points. First of all, growth can mean something different to everyone. So I want to grow, we hear all the time. I always say to people, well, if your business isn't profitable, do you really want to grow it? You're just going to have more problems, right? Do you want to grow it? Like, what's the lifestyle you want? So one of the things that I think is so cool about being a small business owner, you've got the opportunity to craft the life you want, to get your values, your business, the impact you want to have in the world, your family into alignment. So small is big, in my opinion, and success doesn't always just mean increasing revenue and increasing, number of employees. Growth could mean increasing profit margin, working less hours, but making more money, being able to take your family on a vacation, doing more in your community with your business. So we really focus on reminding business owners that there's these false narratives of what success is. And as a business owner, you've got the freedom to define success for yourself. So every business that we work with sets a financial goal and an impact goal, and we rally support around them in both ways. So when you have a SLAP in our world, you build your 1-year growth plan. It takes about 3 hours to do so. You do a whole bunch of work to really get your values and mindset and mission and impact identified. Then you get clear about what you're trying to accomplish. So what do you do? Who do you do it for? What's the scale you want to do it on? Then you build the profile of who your customer is. You set a 1-year sales goal by evaluating your revenue, your expenses, what you're going to sell, how you're going to sell it. And then you build your action plan. And your action plan is your 12-month business development, marketing, sales, how you're going to go out into the world to meet the right people, to get the right deals done. All of that only takes 3 hours to get a really robust 12-month plan in place. Yeah, it's cool. It's really fun.
It's not bad. Right.
Exactly. It's like, oh, well, you can like sit down at night, have a coffee or a tea or whatever, and just, build your plan. And it's fun. It's a fun process. Once the plan is built, though, what behavior change science says, which is what my background is that plans don't mean anything unless we actually do them. And so once the plan is built for the next 12 months, we wrap robust support around the small business owner to help them actually implement and optimize that plan so that they actually get to their goals. So think the best analogy is that it's like Weight Watchers for a small business or Fitbit for a small business. Okay. We're using behavior change science to help you stay accountable to the goals you have, give you the support, the peers, the coaching, the community, all the things that behavior change science knows really work. So we're using the same science as the 12-step program, for example, but we're wrapping that support around a business owner to help them optimize their behavior to accomplish whatever success looks like for them.
Wow, I mean, that's amazing.
So yeah, it's really fun.
Do people sign up for this before they start a business or while they have a small business? Like how?
Usually our ideal small business is already in business, has some sort of existing revenue. Probably they've been in business for at least a year or two. This is their primary source of income, their full-time job. And they want to go for it. They want to really optimize this business. And so they're living and breathing and eating and sleeping this thing and want to get it to the next level.
And you found them like in all areas, from a clothing store to a bodega, probably to restaurants.
To your local accountant, your dry cleaner, your daycare you put your kids in, your coffee shop, right? Like we're all of those people that are so integral, we realize, to our day-to-day life. I'm looking at my desk, right? I've got my tea that a tea maker made. I've got my cup that a local pottery company made. I've got my, aromatherapy diffuser that a local small business made and created. So it's all and everything in between. And we work with small businesses in 25 countries. So also all over the world, which is really fun.
I mean, that's amazing. So what do you think are the traits that take of owners, business traits that take a small business to the next level?
Such a good question.
Yeah. Like what are?
Yeah. So because all of our stuff is now in software, we actually have a lot of data. So I can answer that with data behind it. So it's things that we would not expect, right? We read the story of Mark Zuckerberg and we think we've got to work 24 hours a day and we got to live under our desk and we've got to be, a bit of a jerk and we've got to drop out of university. Like we think that that's the story. That's not the story. It's 3 things. Number 1, you have clarity. You have a clear goal that you're working towards. You don't say things like, oh, well, I'd like to grow my business, or if I could just make a bit more money, or I'd like to grow by 10%, but I don't really know what that means, right? No, it's like, I want to make $450,000 and I will do that by, December 31st. It's a clear, measurable goal that you're tracking against. That's number 1. It's sort of crucial. And behavior change science says it has to be a modest goal, right? So let's say you're a small business owner and you're generating $100,000 a year in revenue, and your goal is that you're going to make $10 million, by a year from now. No, you're not, right? You're training your brain to fail by setting goals that are crazy. So a modest goal so that we can train our brain to succeed. Number 1. Number 2, if none of this is sexy, the ability to say no. The best small businesses we work with are focused, disciplined. Opportunities come their way that look good, but aren't in alignment with their plan, and they can say no to them. So they are able to basically get rid of the stuff that is lovely, but distracting, and just stay laser focused. So that's number 2. And then number 3, they accept support, right? We've really gone wrong in popular culture by painting this image of an entrepreneur being this lone ranger. I did it all myself. I was, an overnight success. Right. That's not true. And so our best small business owners show up to their accountability calls. They send in a ticket when they don't know how to do something. They ask for a help with a connection or a referral. They basically, they're brilliant. They could figure it out, but they are accepting structure and support as opposed to resisting it. That's it. If you do those three things, I can almost guarantee you will succeed.
Yeah, and that almost seems like it could apply to anything. I mean, technically,
exactly.
Every person kind of operates. If you think about it, all of us could be a small business, whether we work for ourselves or work for corporate America. Like you are a business. You're bringing in revenue. You're operating your household or whatever it is. But yeah, the clarity thing is the thing I hear when I talk to financial experts of how to get rid of those money blocks or how to reach financial success. It's always the clarity and being laser focused kind of on what you want and not dancing all over.
And it's really interesting. I have been a business owner for 16 years. We've worked with over 10,000 businesses. I am so deeply entrenched in this. And those three things are still true for me. Literally this week, our leadership team at Silverlining is doing a 1-week leadership retreat. We do it every 6 months where we reflect on the past 6 months. We set our goals for the next 6 months. We turn off our phones. Like we actually focus on getting back to clarity, because when you're busy, you lose clarity. I mean, it just happens, right? We're all so busy all the time. I know that my instinct is to say, yes, I love everything, right? But I know when I do, I get burnt out. I can't focus. I don't get anything done. I know that I am super independent. That's part of why I'm successful. I can forget about what other people say and just do what I think I want to do. But it's super dangerous if I'm not checked with accountability and structure and support. So, it's one of those things, to your point, like this is the human experience. It's not unique to, a 1-year growth plan for your business. It's really accepting this idea that our cultural definition of what it means to be super successful or to be an entrepreneur has led us astray, right? It's not about being this cocky, removed, independent. We got it wrong. Popular culture got it wrong. And so if we can support and create an ecosystem and a new version of how we operate as humans, where we're clear, we say no, we have permission to not do everything, and we have structure and support around us. We're not seen as weak, we're seen as strong for that. We can all increase our happiness and our success, however we define it, in all areas of our life.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Right. And if your own life isn't figured out, you'll have difficulty in business anyway. So it's all just part of the pie. So,
Totally.
okay. So if somebody is an aspiring entrepreneur, they're stuck at a dead end day job. They're like, I've always had an idea, but they're stuck.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a great idea. Do you want to know what stops that great idea? Money, not knowing where to go, lack of resources.
Yep.
What do they do?
It's a great question. So I'll tell you a story. So I wrote this book ages ago. It was about women's dating stories, whole different part of my life. And
fun.
I know we should, it is fun actually. So I was at this book event, like this book trade show or something. And this woman came up to me. Actually, a lot of women came up to me and were like, oh my God, I had an idea like this. And finally, my friend who was doing publicity for it said to this one woman, she's like, yeah, but Carissa did it. And I was like, but it's true. It's true. An idea, I don't care about the idea. And ideas are beautiful. It's not to say that you shouldn't dream and have ideas. But there's a difference between saying, I have a dream and an idea versus constantly being the person that says, I'm going to do something and then never doing it. So the first thing I would say is get really honest with yourself. Do you have dreams and ideas? Or do you have something you actually want to do? Because if you actually want to do it, you have to take action. From a psychology point of view, if you constantly live in this state where you say you want to do something, but you never do it, you're actually training your brain to fail. You're training your brain to be non-committal, to be someone that doesn't do what they say they will, that doesn't deliver. And that plays with your psyche, and that screws you up in all sorts of ways. So if you're not ready to take action, that's fine. Dream, ideate, say, I hate my job. I wish I was doing something else, but I'm not ready to do it yet. Own it. That's fine. If you really want to make a change, if you're serious, then you need clarity. What exactly do you want to accomplish? With a goal, I want to have this true by this date. That is how you get a goal in place, right? This true by this date. You're going to have to sacrifice. If you got to keep your full-time job to keep money coming in for 6 months while you do this over here, you might not be going out on Friday night, or you might have to put your money aside. So no shoes for 6 months or whatever, right? But you got to say no in order to get what you want. So what are you going to say no to create the space, time and money to do this? And then you need accountability and structure. And if you don't have the money to hire help, that's fine. Find 5 people that you really respect, sit them down, say out loud your commitment to them, and ask them to hold you accountable. Have coffee with them once a month for the next 6 months and report back to them. Basically ask for and create your own structure, so that you are held, so you hold yourself accountable to what you said you're going to do. But I think, again, it's give yourself permission to let whatever is true be true. If what is true is you're not ready to take action, hang out over there in idea mode, but don't torture yourself by saying I'm going to do it and then never doing it. That messes with you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so what if they decide I'm ready to take action. I want to develop this widget, but I just don't know how to do it.
So
work, but I don't.
My belief is that something that is 1,000 times more effective than a business degree or an MBA, costs $0, and that is available to anyone on the planet, regardless of their economic or, reality, their status in the world. I was born into a lovely family, but when I moved to Toronto, I did not know one person. And 12 years ago, when I moved to New York, I did not know one person. So I have come with sort of no silver spoon, no built-in network. I went to a university in Canada, no alumni network. I've started from scratch twice. And what I did both times, I made a spreadsheet. It's called 100 Coffees. I made a list of everyone that I either knew, or I just went on LinkedIn or Facebook, like random strangers I did not know, and people that I thought I could learn from, that looked interesting, that I thought could be nice, that I thought might be able to help me, that had experience in an industry I wanted to know about. And I went for 100 coffees. I forced myself to go for 100 coffees when I moved to Toronto, and 100 coffees when I moved to New York. And I went from knowing not one soul, to having a robust social and business network. So I say to everyone who wants to start a business, go for 100 coffees. Go invite everyone you know and don't know, people who are in the industry you want to be in, people who have done something like what you want to do, and don't quit till you've done 100 coffees. And if you do that, you will know more than you need to know. You will have more connections than you need to have. You'll have business deals done, and your business will be built. And it will cost you the cost of 500 coffees. And what I will say about that is I have probably given that advice to 1,000 people in my life. And I say to every one of them, if you hit 100, you call me, because I will be the first to buy from you, promote you, connect you to anyone. You can tell me anything you want, and I will do it for you because you're a doer. And in probably 12 years of giving people that advice, I have had 4 people call me and say, I did 100, here's my spreadsheet. And I will do anything those 4 people want me to do. Anyone I know, I will gladly connect them to. So you don't need tons of money. You don't need to know everyone. You just need to go for it.
And people were pretty open to.
They were. And lots of people said no to me, right? If you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to be ready for rejection. People say no to you all the time. They think your idea sucks. They think you're crazy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As a woman, you get lots of mansplaining. You get lots of inappropriate behavior. I mean, you get all of it.
Sure.
But the 80-20 rule applies, right? I always say 80% of those coffee meetings were fine. I took nuggets from all of them, but it's not like they're going to change my life. But 20 changed my life. I've met some of my best friends in that 20, right? In my 80-20 rule. I've done some of my best business deals with those 20. So you're not going to have, the reason I say you got to do 100 is you need enough volume to learn that some of them are duds. Some of them change your life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Because and it's good. And it's good that you're, kind of, have that motivation. But I think it's like, even as we get older, sometimes it's hard to make friends.
Yes.
Because you're not shoved in a classroom with everybody,
totally.
Shoved in a college campus or a party. Like you're really kind of alone.
Yes.
Once you're an adult, you're on your own, So it's like you make what I found too is like you would make a lot of surface friends.
Yes.
A lot of call me, we'll get together. But people are busy and it doesn't happen. So
it's so interesting that you say that. It's funny. I just have my partner and I have been together for 8 years. We are not married. We don't have kids. We're almost 40. And we're in that really weird phase of life where the people we know that have had kids, we just have naturally spent less time with because they got kids, they're busy.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And then we travel a lot. The people we know who don't have kids travel a lot. So we're also transient, that it's hard. We've got so many great friends, but so few that we do life with. You know what I mean? That sort of that deep, deep, deep friendship that you just want, you know, that knows everything, and that, you know, those. And so, yeah, it's funny. I actually was thinking yesterday, should I do a 100 campaign to like find a best friend? I was actually literally thinking about that yesterday. I think I'm going to. If anyone listening wants to be my friend, I'm open for good friends.
I know. I'll be your friend. How about that?
Thank you. Yes, please. I'll take you. That would be great.
But it's like it's a crazy thing how we become even like more reserved or more shy.
Yeah.
You know, when I was doing a lot of comedy in New York before the pandemic, a friend of mine that produced some shows at a comedy club would get a lot of the audience members from Meetup. And that's a great way. And I always kind of laughed, and I was like, how sad people have to like go to these to make friends. And then I'm thinking, as more people moved on from New York, because New York is a great place, but it is not livable unless you're super rich. So they moved on to greener pastures for them. And it's like, oh shit, I got a ton of acquaintances, but I only have a few friends left in the city.
Yeah, no. And especially after COVID, my boyfriend and I were stuck in Australia for 19 months, like I told you. And so we've just gotten back, and it's almost like I'm doing a re-inventory. Like, wait, where are my friends even here anymore? So many left. There's so much change that has happened. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. It's a really, and you know, our culture, again, going back to this culture thing, we've gone so wrong because we've really perpetuated this idea, right? That success is being almost like, you know, independent to a fault, a little, you know, fearless. And friendship requires vulnerability and admitting that we're tired and stuck and like embarrassed and mad and sad, and, you know, so we've sort of messed up this idea that we always need to look like we've got it together. And I think we're lonely because of it. So I think there's the literal, you know, transience of New York, and then there's this layer of just culture gone wrong.
If you guys are having like relate to any of that adult friendship and advice on how to make friends as an adult and make yourself vulnerable. We always think of vulnerability in dating or relationships, but really relationships go towards friendships, sexual. Yeah, that's it, right? Family.
Yep. Family, totally. And I think increasingly business, right? I mean, increasingly, I think we are realizing that we need to see each other as humans, not just sort of cogs in a machine, you know, remote work. We see kids and dogs in the background, and we realize that, you know, we are humans that have much more context than, you know, just the role we're seen in. So yeah.
Yeah, speaking of the role we were seen in, it was, I don't know where I read this, but I saw this and I thought, so true, but so sad. The first question people usually ask after what is your name, or what's your name, or hi, I'm blah, 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 is what do you do?
What do you do? Totally.
And the reason they ask that is they're deciding what type or how much respect to give you.
I believe it. I think it's true.
And it is true, because we've all done it, right? You're at a party and you meet somebody who's like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I would never do that.
Yep.
But because it's the hardest job that doesn't get paid, so I have so much respect.
Correct. I agree.
But then there's like, oh, I'm the CEO of this company. So everybody's kissing ass to this guy over here, where he could be a complete piece of shit with children in his basement. We don't know.
Totally.
Because of his title. So I think that's also a driving force too for a lot of people, is that
huge
money, but like money, that shouldn't be your driving force of so people respect you. You just need to respect yourself.
Well, and it's so good you said that. There's a really great TED Talk, and the woman who did it is his name. I'm not going to say right, but I'm going to say the title of it so people can find it. The TED Talk is titled, I think it's called basically The Danger of a Single Story. And what this phenomenal woman says is, when we judge anyone or anything, including ourselves, through a single story, right? Oh, Carissa is a business owner. Carissa is an entrepreneur. Yes, and I'm Canadian, and I'm a New Yorker, and I'm a partner, and I'm a sister, and I'm an aunt, and I'm a swimmer, and I'm a friend, and I'm a theater goer, and so I'm more than that, right? And, Madison is a comedian. Well, and she's right? And so like the danger of that single story that we put on ourselves and others, it's just so limiting, right? There's so much more to all of us. Yeah. And when we allow for the types of conversations and relationships that unveil all the stories and allow for the complexity and sort of the beauty of individuals, that's when I think life gets really interesting. That's when it sort of comes to life and gets colorful again.
That's a good point. I mean, it really is. But I've also had this, and you might have this because you deal with small business owners,
Yeah.
is the people will say, oh, let's just use me. Oh, Madison, like she's a writer and she's a comedian and she's got this great podcast, and they're fluffing me up, so to say, but they're honestly think that. And then here I come in saying, oh, well, that sounds like I've got 10 figures in the bank and I don't, so therefore I'm still a failure. And I come in and I dumb myself down.
Yep.
Oh, like, yeah, like, comedy's great, but I'm trying to focus on this more to take the pressure off that. Yeah, the podcast is great. We're still growing. We're, getting all these great people instead of all the great things that are happening. Oh yeah, I'm a writer, but but it's like, oh yeah, you're going to see my work. It's being considered, like we tend to dumb ourselves down when that money doesn't match up. Now, if I had $10 million plus in the bank, I'd be like, yeah, and I'm here and I'm here and I'm here. But it's like, you have to be willing to like be proud of yourself, even if you're not financially where you want to be. And that's hard. Like I have to stop doing that, because when people are like, oh, you should listen to our podcast, I'm like, oh yes, it's good. Like it's the fucking best podcast you'll ever hear in your life. And I'm amazing. And I can take the most pristine, clean conversation and throw in a vagina joke. So
I like it. You haven't done it yet. We're still waiting for the vagina joke today.
Right, exactly, right? Well, there's two ways to make it in business: hard work or sucking a dick.
There you go. You did it.
I'm still working hard at finding the right dick.
Me too. And it does. You do have to work harder if you don't do the alternative. That I can vouch for. But to your point, it's actually so funny. So I'm like, obviously, based on everything I've said, I'm such a big believer in coaching and therapy and just having outside support. And I remember having a conversation with one of my therapists. So at one point in Silverlining's history, I literally was on the cover of like all these newspapers. I was the youngest one in Canada with a multi-million-dollar business, blah, blah, like the perfect young blonde, perfect story. I was $400,000 in debt. Like I was in financial ruin. And the dichotomy between this public story of who I was and the reality of the finances, of the fact that our small businesses didn't pay us and I had to write off all this money and I didn't have enough money and I borrowed money at high interest rates and I made bad choices, and was so stark. And it really messed with me for probably 5 years. Like I had a hard time reconciling. So I said to my therapist, this lovely man named Dennis, I cannot figure it out. I cannot figure out if I am a total failure or if I'm like actually kind of a total rock star. Like, and I'm like really sort of going for it. And, like, I don't know. And he's like, Carissa, you're both. And you're neither. Like, stop trying to put this label on yourself that is so absolute. You are someone that is ambitious and smart, and you go for it and you take risks, and you're going to be rewarded for that sometimes. And you have also made some bad mistakes because you had some blind spots and you made bad choices and you were young and blah, 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 blah. And you have consequences for that. Like, you're both. You're a rock star and you have failed. Like,
yeah,
own it all. And I was like, oh, that was just so, because it's both, right? You're amazing. You're talented. You're a comedian. You're building something great. And you're not where we want to be financially. Okay. Both. Right? It's both and. So I struggle with that. I'm practicing what I'm still learning, or preaching what I'm still learning, I should say.
Right.
But it was like such it was one of those like big moments where I was like, oh yeah, I'm both. Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, and it's true. And I think it's like, we got to start stripping like the money from success. Like, you can still
100%.
Instead of, I think we just typically tie success just to money, but it's more than that. And I think confidence for so many people too.
Huge. And it's, money is so fickle, right? It's one currency, right? wealth should be defined in the currency of how healthy our bodies are because we've taken care of ourselves. The number of friendships and relationships, the number of people who could say we've had a meaningful impact on their life, the content we can put out into the world that may help or inspire someone that we'll never know about, right? Like there's so many currencies to measure a life. And somehow, I don't know how it happened. I mean, it's very patriarchal and very male, quite frankly. The only currency that we all measure is money. It's one currency. And so, yeah, we definitely, I'm with you all the way. We went wrong. It went off the rails a little.
Exactly. And money's an amazing thing. It's just how you utilize it and the attitude you attach to it. I love money and money loves me, and I go by that, but it's because I can do things that make other people's lives better too, and my own.
Exactly.
So, and that's why it's important to, if you're miserable, you're not doing yourself any good, and you don't want to get to when you're 80. So you can call Carissa, and she can help you start that small business.
We'd love to.
So how do they sign up for your program? How can they get you resources? What if they don't have a lot of money? Are there grants they can apply to? Like, walk us through that.
Yeah, so just smallbizsilverlining.com is the website. Everything is there.
B-I-Z?
B-I-Z. Oh yeah, Z. I'm in America. B-I-Z. That's still my Canadian coming out.
I was like, huh? Okay.
Yeah, B-I-Z or Z, however you want to say it, smallbizsilverlining.com. Okay. And when you go there, so 3 things to look at. First is there's a link right in the top called resources. Everything there is free. There is 2-hour workshops you can go through to build your 1-year plan. There are post-COVID health assessments. There are like whole digital series about how to keep the right mindset, how to think about money, how to build your digital growth with GoDaddy, like just tons of free stuff that we've built to just help people for free. So that go there first and get whatever you can that will help you. If using the full SLAP program is helpful, it's $300 a month, but we have a pay what you can policy. So if you sign up, it's completely full of dignity. There's a little video you can watch if you want to, but we basically give you parameters to assess what you can afford based on your economic reality. You enter that number in, so it might be $20 a month, it might be $100 a month, whatever, it could be $1 a month, whatever is true for you. You enter that dollar, you push a button, it creates an automatic promo code, and then that's what you get signed up with. So it's full of dignity. You don't have to apply for it. You don't have to prove that you're struggling. You just use it. So that is available to any small business in the world if that can help them. And then we have a lending fund as well. So one of the things that I really believe in is that we need to change the systems of how people access capital. And the way that they work right now are very old and antiquated and unjust. So we will give small business owners who have a SLAP, who use our core program, after 3 months, we review their behavioral data, and we will give unsecured loans based 100% on behavior, as opposed to credit scores or cash flow statements or anything else, in order to get small businesses capital to fuel their growth. So all 3 of those things, free resources, SLAP at $300 a month, or pay what you can if you need it, and then fair loans based on behavior, based on things you have in your control.
That's really great. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. I'm really, I'm so proud of how far we've come. And we're 16 years in. I mean, we've failed dramatically along the way going to this conversation, right? We're doing great work. I think we are the best thing in the world for small businesses. I really do. And I'm so proud of our team for having got there. And the journey to get there was full of being in debt for $100,000, having to crawl out, writing, building software and chucking it out because it was terrible, having people think I was a crazy person. It's the end, right? It's amazing. I'm so proud of it. And we're not perfect. But it really is so helpful for small businesses. And so if you can help any of you listening, we'd love for you to use it.
Well, that is awesome. And before we go, tell us about your books, because you've written a couple and you have another one coming out, correct?
Yes. So I've written a couple about growing small businesses. So the thing you would expect me to write. So one is called Inspiring Entrepreneurs. Okay. And it's about inspiring people to be good entrepreneurs. It teaches our methodology, but interweaves stories of inspiring entrepreneurs that demonstrate those key principles of what it takes to succeed. One is called I Will, and I'm like a very systems, organized, process person. And so it's the systems and processes that make entrepreneurs successful, basically. So that one's sort of more organized and get things done type oriented. And then I've written a couple of books about, I've compiled, I should say, books of women's relationship stories that we then turned into a play, toured across North America, did a whole thing around. What's that?
How fun.
Really fun. I know it's sort of like an unfinished part of my life. I'm going to have to go back and finish what I started there. I don't know what that means though. We'll talk. You and I can talk about that one. I would love that. But the one I'm working on now that I'm really excited about is really looking at businesses' role in creating justice. So for so long, we sort of said, well, governments or nonprofits or activists, they'll figure out the like make the world better thing. Businesses are going to make money. And I think that when we look at the world and we look at all the systems of injustice, of which, there are too many to list, business actually has a very significant responsibility and role to play, and I think can be very powerful in creating a more just world. And so I really want to challenge business leaders, big and small, to think about the role their business can play in creating more justice in the world.
Wow, that is great. I mean, that is amazing. Like you're a very inspiring person, and you also are very easy to talk to, which is great. So I feel that you're a great resource for people that really want to grow or start their own business because they know they can get that help. And you do all businesses, no matter what industry, you cover them all.
Any business, anywhere in the world, any industry. The only thing we look at is, again, we think the program works best if you're already in business, you've got something happening and you want to grow it, as opposed to you're starting from absolutely nothing. If you're starting from nothing, still message us, still find our website, and we'll connect you to people or things that we think will help you. We will help anyone who reaches out to us 100% of the time. And if what we have is the best thing, we'll make it available for you for sure. But if we're not the best thing, we will try to connect you to something that could be better for you than we are.
Okay, well, that is amazing. Well, this is great. And I hope you guys were motivated, inspired. And if you love your day job at a corporation, I can't even speak. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
Totally.
If you're tired of it, don't wake up when you're 85, if you're lucky to make it to 85, and say, I wish I would have done it.
I agree.
Fine. Do it. You've got nothing to lose. There's literally, what's the worst that can happen? You live on the street. It's not so bad. Just pick a right street. Just kidding. It won't happen. Change your mindset. Get clear. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. And thank you everybody listening, wherever you were listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on Spotify or Stitcher or Apple Podcasts, and leave a review. I'm going to start reading them. I want more reviews. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what's going on. So please do that, and we'll see you next time to find out who's next. Bye.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.